events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are the culture. Hi, and welcome to another edition of The Culture. We're back. It's season 4. I am so happy to have you all join us for this inaugural show. And who else to bring to the table but Senator Dwight Bullard to kick us off? Welcome to the show, Senator Bullard.
Hey, Jessica. Always good to be on The Culture. Happy to be here. Happy to always be in the space.
Yes, and on this Wednesday, you did a thing. Can you tell us?
We definitely did a thing.
Yeah. Tell us about what you're doing now within our space, and we're so happy to have you.
Well, thanks to your support, we've launched Politics for the Culture, which is a podcast, a space where folks can actually, experience what we've talked about on multiple occasions, and that is kind of deepening their understanding of politics. We're going to be talking about everything from folks who want to run for office for the first time, talking to the different candidates, talking to folks who delve around the area of politics. But I was blessed this past Wednesday to really have someone who I consider a friend and definitely a mentor, Senator Nina Turner, blessed us and blessed the space to kick us off. And so I was so excited to have her. As a matter of fact, she's already talking about wanting to come back. So excited to know that I can call on her to be a part of Politics for the Culture and really the culture family.
Awesome. Dwight, I tell you, I can't think of any other voice that the culture needs to enlighten them, to empower them, to provide calls to action than yourself. I am happy to have you on board here with the culture, providing an unbiased, wink, wink, view on the things that, no, seriously, that matter to our sphere, our culture. There has been something that is missing, and I am just really excited to be a part of this historic journey. There's no other time than this. When you think it needs to be done, it is you who needs to do it. Stop asking for someone else to do it. Stop looking to someone else to give you permission. Now is the time to take that right back and do it. I know that there's some things that you're going to be discussing on Politics for the Culture that will empower our next leaders and to give them permission to be who they have been birthed to be, and to stop hiding and allowing other people to feel comfortable in their space and to just walk their journey out.
Yeah, really, there's no time like the present to do what is right and do what is just. And so I'm appreciative to the culture for giving us the opportunity to spread the voice. But really, we want to use politics for the culture to, again, move the culture forward in all aspects. The culture as a platform has been so important for so many folks in terms of talking about anything under the sun. But now that we can kind of really lean in on why this thing called politics is so important for us, for our communities, for our families, we kind of live by this notion on Politics for the Culture that, you can choose not to care about politics, but politics is always going to care about you. And that's for the good and the bad if you're not careful. And so I'm just happy to be able to lend voice to so many other folks that can help illuminate that for so many people in our community, and look forward to continuing those conversations. So, look forward to seeing my face and this beard. We'll be around.
Yes. And there is a designated time, which is now, for your voice to be heard. We are Friday, just a couple of days away from a election here in Miami. Senator Bullard, tell us some of the things that voters need to be cognizant of and why they should get out on Tuesday.
Well, understand that we're talking to you on Friday. Polls may be closing around 7:00 tonight, but you'll have the full weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to participate in early voting. And I want to make sure folks understand the distinction. If you live in your county in Florida. You can go to any one of the early voting locations in your county and cast your ballot. So if you live in the northern part of the county, but you happen to be visiting the southern part, go into that early voting location and cast your ballot. The distinction I want to make for folks is that on Tuesday, though, you're going to have to go to your polling place. And the thing that makes this a little daunting for some people is that their polling place may have changed. Some of us, most of us, should have gotten a voter identification card, or a voter information card is really what it's called, that'll provide the address and location of that. And most of us are used to going to the same locale, but be leery, because if you happen to have misplaced that or tossed that in the trash accidentally, and you end up going to what you believe is your polling site and find out that it's not, it does put people in a very precarious position. And so what I would encourage folks to do is that if you can't find that voter information card, use Saturday and Sunday to go out to the polls. It's 8 to 4. So whether you're an early riser or someone who's got to run some errands in the earlier part of the day, you're going to have ample time and ample opportunity to pop into one of those early voting locations and cast your ballot. So I definitely encourage you to do that.
Well, I do know that I took advantage of understanding what my ballot would be when I went to the poll, as well as my polling location. Wouldn't you suggest that people also use the internet to identify where their new polling location may possibly be? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. The beauty of the magic of the internet is that you can listen to this show right now, go to Google or go to the supervisor of elections. They'll ask for your information, and all your voting location will pop up. So if you're, as they say, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you can actually pull up Google on your computer or on your phone and pinpoint that location. They're going to ask you for things like your date of birth, of course, and your home address, just so they can pinpoint the location of your polling place if you do not already know your actual voter ID number. But I would encourage folks to do that as well. But I can't, emphasize enough that the luxury of early voting is that you don't have to think about it. It's easy. And for those of you who still have your vote by mail ballot, now's the time at this point where you actually want to take it with you and drop it off at one of those locations, so you can drop it in the drop-off box, because mail can be challenging. And so if this is Friday and you're dropping in the mail now, we don't want to run the risk that it may not make it to the supervisor of elections by Tuesday.
Yeah, I remember in the last election, I waited so late to mail my ballot. I actually had to just drive there and hand it in, because I just didn't want to risk it. But what was interesting this time, when I went to the supervisor of election website, our poll changed. I don't understand why my polling location changed, but I am glad that I went there to look at my sample ballot and just, wanted to check on and just make sure that it said that I was still eligible to vote and everything. But I noticed that my polling location had changed. Senator, did that have anything to do with redistricting? Do you have any answers to what's going on?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of folks, the last few years has been challenging for a number of folks. But if you recall, back in 2020, outside of all the the world changing that was happening going on that year, you also went through something called the census, right? You had to fill that out, and then in the subsequent 2 years, we go through what is called redistricting and reapportionment, where your districts change. So every level of government redraws the map to take into consideration population growth and population shift. So you may now be in a new school board district. You may now be in a new state house district. You may now be in a new state senate or congressional district. And so that ends up resulting in you potentially having your polling place change. And so I'm glad you were able to find that out in advance. But for so many folks, they're going to wake up on Tuesday morning, unfortunately, and discover that their location has changed. So I, again, want to encourage folks to do your due diligence, check it out, get the advance notice now, try to, find that voter information card that you may have, thrown that mail to the side so that you can, double check and make sure where that location is.
Thank you, Senator Bullard. And we'll be back with more right after this commercial.
My name is Philip Bieneme, Mayor of the beautiful city of North Miami. I'm running for County Commissioner of District 2 in Miami-Dade County. As your next county commissioner, I can guarantee you I will protect our green space, fight every day to upgrade our community centers, our recreational facilities. On August 23rd, 2022, elect me as your next county commissioner. I will fight every day to protect our green space.
So, Senator, I know that there still are people out there that are even watching this show that feel as if their vote doesn't matter, or the people who are watching the show know someone who feels as if their vote does not matter. What can you say to them to possibly sway their opinion on the importance of getting out to vote, either now during early voting or on election day?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that sentiment because sometimes it feels as though, your voice and your vote are making the difference that you want. But I would remind folks that this isn't about just the casting of the ballot, right? That is the relatively easy part. It is, paying attention to what's going on around you. And for folks who are parents, that is, what's going on at your school. Because we're talking about hearing how curriculums are changing and how history can't be taught in school, especially, we think about Black history. That is a political decision that's being made by somebody who, who's choosing to make that decision based on what they feel is the will of the people. But we have to understand what numbers look like. And so, for the governor won his election by less than half of a percentage point, 30,000 votes, and I know that seems like, well, I'm just one person, but you have to remember here in Miami-Dade County, we have 3.2 million people, many of whom are choosing not to vote, may not be registered, may not be engaged in the process. So right here in Miami-Dade County, we're 30,000 votes that could have changed the outcome of the gubernatorial election, just right here in your own backyard. And when you think about your influence and in community in a world of social media, think about that, right? If you have 100 followers or 1,500 followers on something like Facebook or Instagram, and you're saying, well, that's insignificant in comparison to other folks. Just imagine the power that you wield as an individual who feels out of touch. And then you factor in so many other folks that have that level of influence. So imagine you multiplying just the 30 people that are closest to you. If they all have 1,000 followers, that is 30,000 votes. And there are so many elections that really boil down to these small numbers. And so I just want to encourage folks, especially if you believe that all politics is local, now's the opportunity to weigh in, because what's on the ballot for August are things like school board, county commission, judges. These are the folks that are going to impact your life daily. And so I would definitely encourage you to get out there, cast your ballot, and spend, some time finding out who these people are. The same way that you find out about, recipes, the same way you find out about who's messing with who, is the same way you find out about who's running for office. And so use that same energy, get out there, and make sure people know that your voice is important.
Now, I did notice on my sample ballot, there were many, many opportunities for judges to be decided in this election. How do people even understand who those candidates are? And I also want you to just re-emphasize how important that those races are. We're talking about judges. Right. It's very important. And can you explain to them why their vote on that race all of those races for judge is important.
Yeah, I mean, the judges on the ballot this year are county court judges, circuit court judges. Just so you know the difference, right? When you have a speeding violation and you have to go to county court, you want somebody who is empathetic and understands the plight of your situation. Let's say, you had to make sure your child got to school safely and we're trying to race to work. If someone who is not a mother or someone who is, not gone through that lived experience is on the bench, then it's going to be very tough for them to understand and empathize with you as a parent, right? And so those are the kinds of things you want to look for when you're looking for judges, are people who have some level of shared experience. The beauty of the internet is you can find out what high school they went to, what college they went to, whether or not they were a prosecutor or a public defender. One of the interesting facts about judges is that there's an overrepresentation of prosecutors on the bench. And if you're familiar with how the court system works, prosecutors are the one that put people away. So maybe you want to vote for somebody who's a public defender or someone who comes from academia, who may have been a law professor, people who understand the varying degrees of lived experience. And so I would definitely encourage folks, again, Google, the internet. It's right there at your fingertips. If you have a cell phone, these are those opportunities to just kind of find out who's who. One click of a button, one entrance of a name, and a whole world can pop up, who they've contributed to, articles they may have been mentioned in, things that they may have done, legal or illegal, that you didn't know about, or more importantly, moral or immoral, that you feel as though might be something to hold them accountable for. So those are the kinds of things you want to use the power of the internet to find out. And again, don't skip those races because they're so critically important to your everyday lived experience.
Senator, I noticed that there were a number of campaigns that seemed as if there was some influence coming from the governor's office. It seemed a little interesting to me and made me, as just a civilian, want to delve into the candidates for that race, just because I don't understand why someone with so much power would be kind of utilizing their position for local elections. What do you say about that?
Well, politics is an extension of the human experience, right? And you want people around you, oftentimes, who are of the same belief system or the same ideology. Politics is no different. And so what the governor is doing and has been doing is using his influence in spaces that traditionally governors have not played in. It is no secret that he's spending millions of dollars to influence elections in places like school board or city council because of a particular agenda. We talked about, you may have heard the term culture wars being thrown around, and that is this idea of trying to turn back the clock on certain things or change the direction that things are going in. And what I would argue is, you as an individual have every right to disagree with someone else, but to now create policy that unfortunately influences how someone's lived experience can change is a tough one. And I know it's a hot button issue around abortion and reproductive rights, and I'm not going to belabor the point by going too deep into it. But at the end of the day, I would argue that before that was legal, you had the occurrence of illegal activity happening where people were seeking that procedure. And now that people are talking about rolling that back, people are thinking, well, if I roll that back, then people will start being, better about how they govern their lives. And what I would argue is that human beings are human beings, right? People are going to make mistakes. And so to leave somebody in a situation where now they can't seek a safe pathway to get something that they need puts people in a very, very challenging situation. It's the same argument that we make around the legalization of marijuana, right? At this point, 34 states have some level of legalization, including the state of Florida. And so, we have to ask ourselves, is it okay to allow people to do what they were inherently going to do anyway and stop criminalizing certain behaviors? And so that is the question that we really must ask ourselves. But to that point, when people make the assumption or make a determination that they want something a particular way, they will do everything within their power to try and change and influence that. And that's what we're seeing play out now, where certain races are, you're seeing people who are claiming to be Democrats, with, hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations from people who do not share their party affiliation. And so you really do have to ask the question, why would somebody who doesn't agree with you or is supposed to not agree with you spending so much money to help influence your election against a fellow Democrat or someone of the same party? And so this is important, an important thing to ask oneself. And we're seeing it play out on both sides of the political spectrum. So it has nothing to do with one versus the other. We're seeing it play out across the board in multiple spaces.
We absolutely are, Senator. And I pray that those of you who are watching paid attention to what the senator is saying and what he did say. Remember, we're in early election time right now, where you still have an opportunity to go out, cast your vote. Voting day is on Tuesday. We encourage you to cast your vote and just continue to stay vigilant about what you deem is right for you and your family. Thank you, Senator, for joining us. And as before I say, as always, make sure that you check the Culture on Politics out every Wednesday right here at 12 noon with the senator. He has awesome guests who will be enlightening you on all things that you need to know about politics for the culture. Any closing words?
Just a simple reminder, you hear a lot of analogies around politics about not having a seat at the table. What I would remind folks is that you all have the ability to not only carry a folding chair to the tables that you're not invited to, you also have the ability to make a table of your own. And so
Amen.
I would encourage folks to, as you said, stay vigilant, but understand that, you are the bearer of the dream that you have. And ultimately, if you want to see that dream manifest, you have the power, the ingenuity, the intelligence, and the capability to make it happen. And so do that and make it happen for yourself.
What he said. Hey, come back at 6 p.m. tonight and join us for another edition of My 2 Cents. We're back. And we would love for you to join us tonight at 6 p.m. on social media live, YouTube, Facebook. I'll catch you back right here, same time, same place next week for another edition of The Culture. Thank you.
The Culture is produced and owned by the Culture Media Group and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent. All rights reserved 2022.